Hello, everybody. Unfortunately, Constantine can't come today, but I do have a very angry hedgehog, so I thought that would make up for it. This is kind of the theme of what I wanted to talk about today. The little hedgehog in Bakhmut. Um, but yeah, there's no Constantine. He is not feeling well, so he is taking a nap. Maybe he'll be back on Thursday. Um, I'll give you some like behind the scenes things. There are potentially two guests that could come on Thursday. Um, One of them is a subject matter guest, and the other one is a Ukrainian uh, soldier who could come. So one or both of them could come. It could. I don't know. We'll see. But anyways, so here I'm gonna get rid of my hedgehog. Uh, that's gonna be the thumbnail for this video. But anyways, so we first I'll talk about general news that's not Bakhmut first. Uh, Up near Kupyansk, Russia has been attacking Hryanykivka, and they have this is like a really difficult town for Russia to attack because Ukraine has such a huge advantage over this town. Um, Ukraine is set up on I don't know which side of the river. What is this? The east side of the river or the west? I always forget. Anyway, they're set up on this side of the river, and they are shooting artillery, tanks, and ATGMs across the river, and it makes it really difficult for Russia to leave this forested area because all of this is, flat ground, very easy to hit with those sorts of weapons. The town itself is in the similar sort of problem where pretty much everywhere in the town, Ukraine can hit with some sort of explosive. So Russia, the furthest up Russia has ever gotten is like this around this gas station. So you could probably say that like Russia controls like I can draw it. I have a drawing tool. You could say that Russia controls like this eastern part of the town. Um, they kind of moved up to the furthest they ever got was this gas station, uh, Tatneft, and if you were generous, you could say that they control like this part of the town, maybe some of this part, but not really. Like there's no defensive positions there. Anyway, so moving on. Um, this whole kind of area is pretty quiet. I like no news here, really. They're not even reporting shelling anymore. Like there's just like a black hole of news. I have no idea. So and then this kind of Kreminna area. There were videos posted by Konstantin and Tanya with their Liberty Ukraine videos for their fundraisers, where um, Ukraine kind of just shelled a whole bunch of Russian positions, like right here. The Russians were trying to attack west, but they all got exploded, like right here. It's like kind of this and kind of like there. Anyways, so that's kind of like the most recent news I've seen from this area. Um, and then near Dubrova, I always had Russia kind of controlling this like big number 10 here, but I don't know. Some people are saying that Russia just now pushed in. I don't know. I don't believe that. I think Russia was always there, but there's just kind of generally trying to push towards Terni, but they don't have the forces anymore, and because one thing is that Ukraine pushed more reinforcements into this kind of position, and they kind of just fortified all of this, and it stabilized the situation, and then you saw kind of Ukraine pushing this way, and there's one particular part of this forest. I think it was here. I think this is the furthest extent of the Ukrainian movement. So they kind of pushed this way up till like right here. I think the front line is kind of like that, maybe, but I'm not really sure. So I'm just keeping it all like a big gray zone. There's just not so much news here. I can tell you that the shelling of Serebranka and Hryanykivka, the shelling here has dramatically decreased. So Russia is not hitting here so much anymore. Also shelling of Siversk has decreased. The shelling of Bilohorivka, I believe, is roughly the same. And I have heard very little news from Kupyansk. And Sperna is pretty much the same as it's always been. Like, not much has changed. The same is pretty much true for pretty much all of these towns, or Vasily, Rostolivka, Fedorivka, Vasukivka. Really, no notable changes. It's possible, I think I said this last time, it's possible that Russia has pushed up like this far. But I haven't seen like solid proof of that, and also it's kind of such a small distance, it doesn't really matter. So, moving on. And I'm going to skip Bakhmut because we're going to get back to Bakhmut. Moving on even further, there's been activity around Shiroka Balka and Zalizna, but I don't really have, it's hard because I don't know anybody in this region, so it's hard to say exactly what's going on because I don't have good sources here, but there does seem to be something going on. I kind of get the impression that Ukraine, not an attack, like not an offensive action, but they've been kind of pressing this way, kind of slowly, I think, and now they're kind of maybe testing this Russian line. I'm not really sure about that though. That's just the impression I get, that it seems that Ukraine is kind of just applying gentle pressure to like this area. And then in the Avdiivka area, I'm going to try to get confirmation of this tomorrow. But there's news that Russia captured the town of Vasily, which is right here. And I need to get confirmation of this. Vasily is a town that is so small it's not labeled on the map. It used to be labeled on the map, which is why I know it's here, but then they took the label away. So anyway, but this is the town of Vasily. So there's a rumor that Russia pushed through this town and captured the entire town. The entire town is not that big, but it's just like maybe 20 houses. Like, I don't know. So it's not a big town, but it was a reasonably important defensive position. Obviously very close to Avdiivka, and it is near this position that Russia may or may not have near Krasnohorivka. So it is possible. The rumor is that they captured Vasily today, which is like here. And then there's also the rumor that Russians debunked, by the way, that the Russians claim that they don't control this northern part. but it's now possible that they control this entire section. And I'm gonna try to confirm this tomorrow. I know some people in this area, so I'm gonna try to contact them. But um, yeah, it's very unlikely any of these houses exist anymore. These houses probably haven't existed for months or a year. But I mean, when did they? Yeah, so yeah, so like May they got here. So Russia has been more or less attacking this position since May. I doubt these houses exist anymore. But anyways, so the goal of Russia is obviously to. I need to unclick this so I don't mess things up. Anyway, so they're trying to break through the northern flank of Avdiivka, and obviously they need to get through Krasnohorivka to do this, or Novokalinove. They have to get through one of these two towns. Novokalinove, they've tried a whole bunch of times, and they can only attack it kind of this way because Ukraine has defensive positions here. And obviously, Russia has been trying to capture Bakhmutivka, and we've seen some videos come out. The videos I think were like more over here, where Russia captured this position and kind of pushed through kind of the middle of the town, and now Ukraine only controls these kind of outskirts. But they do control these outskirts well enough that Russia obviously can't push through here. So then Russia has tried pushing through Novokalinove like months ago, like September, August, something like that. They tried pushing north through here. At one point, they had crossed the highway and reached this railway. So at one point, they had a defensive. Russia had a defensive position somewhere near this railway. I don't exactly know where, but I think it was like right here. And then I don't think Ukraine pushed them out. I think they just gave up because they just didn't have the forces to continue attacking. Like they didn't have enough infantry because at that point, they had withdrawn almost all of their infantry from the Avdiivka area to send them up to attack Lysychansk. So in the Avdiivka area, they had very, very few infantry. So they were kind of running on fumes when they were doing this attack. So they just didn't have the guys, and then they eventually just fell back. I don't think Ukraine even really did anything. So, and then more recently, they've been attacking Krasnohorivka and Vesely, and they may have captured Vesely today, and they are now probably going to focus entirely on Krasnohorivka, or I guess they could try crossing this wide open fields and enter this residential area of Avdiivka. I don't think that would go well. I think it's more likely they'll go for Krasnohorivka, but who knows? And one place that I don't think the Russians want to go at all is this coke plant, because it is just a giant industrial area, and Russia is uniquely bad at attacking giant industrial areas, so I'm sure they're going to avoid that and try to go around it somehow. That's why they kind of want to go like through Krasnohorivka and maybe capture Stepove and then kind of get behind this industrial area. Ukraine's kind of main defensive positions are Berdichi and Orlivka. No, this is coke, as in like the chemical coke. Not, not the drug coke and not the drink coke. It is like coal coke. Yeah. So, anyways, so they Orlivka and Berdichi. These are kind of the main hubs of the Ukrainian activity in this area. Orlivka is kind of like the HQ. Um, so this is kind of the northern Avdiivka area. The southern Avdiivka area, Russia's attacking from Spartak, and I'm not sure exactly what they're attacking. I know they're attacking north. Logic would say that they would be attacking Zenith from Spartak. This is Zenith. It is a nuclear bunker. You can't see it because it's underground, but this was a Soviet base from like the 1970s or whatever, and it's a major defensive fortification. Ukraine has never lost this position ever in the history of Ukraine. So, or at least, you know, the modern history since the 90s. They've never lost this position. There was one point where Russia had like taken like all the ground around it, including the ground like above it, and they still held the bunker from like inside the bunker, and then recaptured all this ground. But anyways, so attacking Zenith is a pretty bad idea, and but I do when they say they're attacking from Spartak, Zenith is only, you know, a mile from there. So although it's possible they could be attacking kind of they could be attacking like that, I guess, but I'm not sure. But anyways, so I about like a week ago or whatever, I was told that Russia had been pushed up to around here. And now, yesterday, I read that the Russians were complaining that Ukraine had a counterattack of some sort that pushed them back several hundred meters to this tree line. This tree line, like here, this tree line. See, near Siversk, it's a gradual hill up. It's a very gradual hill. I don't even know if you want to call it a hill. It's like a slope. It's just this gradual slope where kind of this tree line was the top of the slope, unfortunately. So from what I understand, Russia had attacked north. They kind of established themselves, and now they're pushed back, and the front line is around this tree line now. So that happened yesterday, I believe. And Pervomaisky, I don't know of any changes here, although this town is getting completely destroyed. There's going to be very, very little structures are left in this town. Basically, everything in this yellow area is completely destroyed to nothing, and this blue area is like almost completely destroyed. But yeah, this is otherwise this is pretty flat. It's a very gradual slope. And keep in mind that the way I'm displaying it, the vertical displacement is magnified by 3 times. There are heavily mined areas, yeah. So Zenith is heavily mined. Like this whole area around Zenith is like a ridiculously thick minefield. Like that's why nobody really touches it. Like Russia's not even trying to enter it. This area between the airport and like Apitna and Vodiana, this whole area is a giant minefield. And I believe this whole field here, like south of Pisky, this is also a giant minefield, and out to like here is a giant minefield. This kind of northern area up here, like north of Vodiana, I don't know how many mines are here. But south of Vodiana is a very dense minefield, and especially around Zenit. Like there is this right here was a nursery that grew Christmas trees. And you can kind of see the Christmas trees on the map. Even though you have to imagine that this picture on the map was taken in 2021, and this nursery was destroyed in 2014. So this is like 7-8 years after it was destroyed, but you can still see the Christmas trees. But anyways, this nursery is in the minefield, so it's like everything south of these ponds is the minefield. And I heard a story about someone from Opitna in like 2015 or 2014 or whatever. They snuck through this forest line into the nursery to chop down a tree and then carried it back to Opitna so they could have a Christmas tree. Which I thought that story was pretty funny. The mines here, when I say minefield, you have to think of these minefields were not laid professionally. They were laid really haphazardly. Nobody even knows where the mines are. They so it's kind of like Ukraine laid some mines, and then Russia laid some mines, and then Ukraine laid some mines, and then Russia laid some mines. So these are just, it's minefields on top of minefields on top of minefields on top of minefields. There's so many mines here. I heard from a guy who he had to dig a trench, a defensive trench in this area. He said that when he was digging, 1 meter underground, he found a tank mine. A meter underground. That's how many mines there are. It's ridiculous how many mines there are. This area, like around the airport, is probably one of the densest mined areas on Earth. Like this is like awful, completely awful. I mean, there's just if you want to talk about mines, there's lots of areas of Ukraine that are heavily mined, like this area of Kharkiv is heavily mined. Like around this river, this whole river is heavily mined on both sides. There's mines all throughout like this river here, and there's mines all over the place. But you have to think about it that some of these minefields were laid professionally. Like I'm sure that the Ukrainian side of this river, the mines were laid professionally. That they followed the right patterns. They marked where the field starts and where it ends. They know how many mines they put down. I'm sure that this side of the river was done professionally. This side of the river, I really doubt was done professionally. It was probably pretty haphazard. But clearing these sorts of minefields, you can go in with some tools, all of your mine clearing tools, and go through it. And it might take a really long time, but I think you can more or less clear this sort of stuff. The same is sort of true for like Kherson, where Kherson is very heavily mined. And this part of Mykolaiv here is also heavily mined. So like this whole area that Russia used to control is very heavily mined. There's lots of mines. It's like 1,000 mines per square kilometer or something like that, or more maybe. There's so many mines, but it's a whole other level when you're talking about this area around the Donetsk airport. You're talking a completely different problem where I don't even know how you clear these mines. I think the only way is to just blow it all up. Like, I don't, there's so many mines. Like, this is, like, it's like, it's just a hell. I don't know how else to say it. This is one of the densest mined areas on Earth, like probably in history. Because it's the Ukraine laid a minefield that was very dense, and then Russia laid a minefield that was just as dense on top of it, and then Ukraine laid another one on top of that, and then Russia laid another one on top of that. It's just minefields for days. So I think I might be misremembering the number. I might be wrong on the number, but I think I read that there's 80 million hectares of mined territory in Ukraine. Like I think it was 80 million, or maybe it was 80 million, and maybe it was 30. I can't remember. I can't remember if 80 million was how many were mined, or if 80 million is how big is the whole country. It's one or the other. But anyways, it's a lot of hectares. It's a lot. It's a lot of, because just think about it, like this whole area is mined, like all of it. Like you've heard, like this whole river is mined. This whole area is mined too. So it's just there's mines everywhere. It's just mines, mines, mines. Everywhere is a mine. But anyways, so near Nevelske, there was a video that I think I can show you from Nevelske. Let me grab it for real fast. I believe this is Nevelske, I believe. I don't even know if this video is new or not. Yeah, that's a video from Nevelske. It's this town here. It's a very, very small town. But it's incredibly important to Russia. The importance of the town is mostly because they want to push like that. More or less, that's what they want to do. Because if you look at the greater situation here, Maryinka, they can't get through. Krasnohorivka, they're not even trying to get through. Then there's Pervomaisky, which obviously they're having issues with. Their only option left is really Nevelske. So Nevelske has been a major point that Russia is trying to get through. It's incredibly important to them. They can't get through the town itself, so they're trying to now flank it. They're trying to go between Pervomaisky and Nevelske. So they are pushing this way now. They tried that way, didn't work. They tried that way, didn't work. So now they're trying this way. And they have partial success, as you see. They've moved up to like here. But this is kind of the main Russian attack in the Avdiivka area is here. And the secondary attack is this Vasily area. So anyways, moving south to Maryinka, not much is happening to my knowledge. There are a whole bunch of like really depressing videos and whatnot, but that's about it. Pobieda, Russia kind of moved up to this forest strip on the outskirts, but other than that, not much. Vuhledar, I got news directly from a soldier who, he's not currently in Vuhledar because he was rotated out for rest, but he was in Vuhledar very recently, and he basically told me where the Russians are. So this is he drew this kind of little bird shape, and he said this is where they are. That they have kind of pushed up to this strait. They have a semi-permanent position here. Otherwise, they're stuck along this road. This kind of southern part of town is totally demolished, and they can't really use it. And they are basically stuck here. They can't move. They've been trying to move, and they can't. So they're a little bird sitting on top of Mikhailska. They definitely hit the coal mine. This coal mine is really important to Ukraine. It's kind of like their base here, because it's like a natural fort, a natural fortification. You obviously you can hide stuff in the mine, and it's very difficult to get to. So yeah, Russia definitely shells this mine. They shell the city, and yeah. So yeah, that's kind of the Vuhledar situation. Beyond that, there's a story I can't talk about, so because it's weird. Anyway, so the whole kind of Zaporizhzhia area, not too much is going on at the moment. Russia is building up forces in this area, kind of between Ochakiv and Kupyansk. But they're not building up like an offensive force. They're building up a defensive force, and they're entrenching. One final story before I get to Bakhmut is that today in Ochakiv, one of the leaders of the town was arrested for trying to basically turn the town over to the Russians. He used to be the head of, I believe he was a battalion commander in the 72nd, and he was using his position, his former position, to try to convince other soldiers to turn against the Russians. He was also, I believe he was the deputy mayor or whatever, and he was trying to convince the mayor and the soldiers here to turn against Ukraine and hand the city over to Russia. And he was arrested. One thing to note, if you don't know this Ochakiv is a military base. So there's a like obviously this was like an air base. So they have lots of military infrastructure here. It's more than you think. There's more military stuff here than you think. So it's one reason why Russia shells this city like every single day. But yeah, he really thought that he could talk these people into turning over the city. He was caught by the SBU. There's photographs of him. He had all these guns and stuff. And yeah, I think he's looking at some time in prison, probably. His thermal imagers, unregistered weapons and ammo. I think he's kind of toast for being a traitor. But yeah, so that was one piece of news from Ochakiv today. Now to get back to the Bakhmut, which is kind of the thing now. Okay, so first talking about the southern part of the city. This southern section between Ivanyvska and this kind of forest area, and up here is Chasiv Yar. This whole southern section is kind of rock solid defensively. There's just not much going on in the south. So Ukraine has done active defense where they have been attacking south. Not like huge attacks, but they are pushing kind of this way just to keep their line, more or less. This area is dangerous for Ukraine. There's a video recently of a Ukrainian convoy being destroyed, roughly right here on this like near the canal. So anyway, the southern section is more or less stable. The northern section has stabilized mostly. There's some news that Ukraine may have pushed out a little near Avdiivka, and they may have pushed out a little near Kreminna. But and Russia kind of controls this kind of area. I probably need to update my map to show that. But I'm just not entirely sure the full extent of their control. I think more or less Russia controls everything up to the river, probably. They probably control like everything up to like here. And then Ukraine controls everything immediately on the other side of the river. So like basically the only gray area is the river itself. So the more or less this northern area Ukraine managed to stabilize. So that is really kind of the important fact here. It's really what is changing Ukraine's calculus going into this. So the Russia kind of has this line that I just made a really thick white line on. So Russia kind of that's kind of the more or less different line. So a little bit north of here, this is more unknown to me. It's possible that Russia controls this entire region here. It's possible that they control that. And we can look at the 3D map here. So you see like this area is kind of a depression. It's possible that Russia controls this entire depression kind of area. I'm not 100% sure on that. But the important thing is that Ukraine, they may not control it, but they at least have some power over the main part of town here. Ukraine tried to launch some sort of attack through this kind of forest strip here, and it didn't go well. But for the most part, this northern part is stabilized, with the exception of this depression here, which may have fallen to Russian hands, and also this Yehidne area that is immediately across the river. But other than that, the northern section has stabilized, which means that Ukraine still controls enough of the land corridors, or the roads and road-like areas, that they can supply Bakhmut for the near future. As a result, Ukraine has decided that they will stay in Bakhmut. They've given up this eastern side of the Bakhmutivka River. So they are now defending the river itself. Russia has made attempts to cross the river in this northern section. I know a guy who is near here and told me that the Russian attempts to cross were pretty funny and led to catastrophe for them. So this river itself is now a natural barrier. The Russians do control kind of this southern part. They control the dam itself, and but the southern part of this flank is also more or less steady under Ukrainian control, and this kind of southern part is also more or less steady. So basically all of the defensive lines in Bakhmut right now, the Bakhmut itself, are pretty strong. First, you have this river, which I don't know the name of, or stream, or whatever this water is, and then you have this Bakhmutivka river, and then to the south, it's just kind of defensive lines. Is there a chance that Russia breaks through the south? Yes, there's definitely a chance of that happening. Ukraine is working very hard to not let that happen. Part of what makes this harder for Russia is Ukraine's attacks from Ivanyivka. Ukraine is constantly applying southernward pressure out of Ivanyivka, which is forcing Russia to defend this flank, which means that they cannot use those forces to attack Bakhmut. So these attacks south are actually very important. The same goes for this forested area, where Ukraine more or less controls all the high ground and Russia has all the low ground. Ukraine is applying pressure here as well, trying to force Russia to defend these positions. Ukraine also pushed Russia out of this kind of bridgehead across the canal. They pushed them back across the river into this forest strip, again forcing Russia to defend. And down near Hryanykivka, Ukraine is regularly attacking, forcing Russia to defend. So Ukraine is forcing Russia to defend this whole area. This whole area here. They're forcing them to defend here, and that means that those forces cannot, go into Bakhmut. This is why Ukraine they chose to defend. Now the other point here is that if Russia continues pushing this way, Ukraine will be able to push this way and destroy their flank. Ukraine has been reinforcing Slovyansk, Siversk, and also they've been reinforcing Konstantinivka. So they're reinforcing here, here, and here. And the reason they're doing this is so that they can have the forces needed to attack Russia in the case that if Russia tries to move like this, Ukraine can send these forces down to attack. If Russia tries to go like this, they have these forces to attack. And obviously, they're not going to march guys from Slovyansk down. I'm just saying they're keeping forces in Slovyansk so that they can rapidly deploy south. So the forces in Hryanykivka or whatever would probably be doing the counter. Anyway, so obviously, but anyways, so Ukraine is basically threatening Russia. They're saying, "I dare you to overextend yourself with your forces that the Russians are claiming are low on ammo." They're claiming this, not me, because I don't actually believe they are. But the Russians are claiming that they're low on ammo and attacking. So if they continue to overextend, Ukraine threatens to crush their flank and destroy them, and push them back to whatever the current line is. So this is the reason that Ukraine is choosing to defend Bakhmut. Whether you think it's a good idea or a bad idea, I don't know. Yes, Ukraine is taking casualties in Bakhmut. It's a fact. They're losing a lot of their best soldiers. It's true. Um, but at the same time, Russia is also losing their best soldiers. Um, and there's another point to make here, that you can't really win a war with like a major war. Like, this is a major war. You can't win a war with just one group of infantry. Like, you need to develop more forces over time. You know what I mean? So just because Ukraine has a few battalions that they've really leaned on to do a lot of the work so far in this war. The 93rd, but they've they have a number of battalions, but the 93rd has done a lot of work with their battalions, and they're not alone. But the 93rd in particular, interesting. The 93rd, they fought in the north, they fought near Izium, and then they were sent to Bakhmut, where they fought, and then they left, and then they came back, and now they're here again. So the 93rd held Bakhmut for a long time. When they left, everything kind of collapsed, and they came back, and they kind of stabilized it again. So, but the point here is that you can't expect to win a war with just the 93rd, and it's obviously not just the 93rd, but there's the 92nd they lean on a lot, and what is it, like the 80th or whatever, and there's not lots, there's a few brigades and a few battalions that they expect to do all the heavy lifting, and that's unrealistic. They need to train more forces. They have to train more forces to win this war. Okay, so first off, there was a lot of talk about a counteroffensive in the spring by Ukraine, a Ukrainian counteroffensive in the spring. People have differed on where they think the attack could come. It could come maybe Vuhledar, or who knows. I don't think there will be a spring counteroffensive. I don't think it will happen. There's one place that I think, and I'm not going to tell you where, because it's kind of like a, anyway. There's one place where I think Ukraine could do a counteroffensive, and if they do a counteroffensive there, it would be pretty exciting. But I don't actually want to talk about it, where it is, but it is a place where that's the only place I could see them counterattacking. Other than that, I don't think there will be a counterattack in the near future. Right now, Russia, I believe, will continue their offensive, whatever, if you call this an offensive, whatever they're doing now, they're going to continue doing now. And also, I want to say, the reason I don't want to say where that one place is because if they do attack there, I actually want it to succeed. But I think Russia will continue their current attacking, whatever they're doing now. I think they're going to continue doing it for as long as possible. I think they're going to continue pushing on Bakhmut. I think they will continue pushing in Vuhledar. They might. I think they might. I don't know for sure. They might try to attack Ochakiv. They will. I think they'll continue attacking Avdiivka. I think they'll continue trying to flank Maryinka. I think they're going to continue all of these attacks for several more months. And I think Ukraine's plan is to basically grind down these attacks and destroy as many of the Russian forces as possible during these attacks. And I think Russia will be able to do these attacks until around June or July. And then June or July, I think Russia will run out of armored vehicles and trained infantry. They'll probably have more mobilized by then, but they'll run out of trained infantry. They'll run out of assault infantry, which is really the most important type of infantry. And I think they'll really be very low on armored vehicles. So I think like BMPs, BMDs, BTRs, and tanks. So I think in June, Russia will be weakened through their own offensives. And I think after that, Ukraine will attack. This is what I think. So I think that would be like a late summer, like maybe July or August attack, if not an autumn attack, like September. So I think like July to September is around the time I expect Ukraine to attack, except for that one place that I don't want to talk about. But there's one place that I think they could attack. And this is not that one place, but there's always the potential of a Ukrainian attack across the Dnipro. There's always the potential that they will force the Dnipro. You can never rule it out. It's unlikely, but you can't rule it out. It's possible they force the Dnipro. Who knows where on the Dnipro? It could really be anywhere. I mean, I doubt it would be near these islands. I think it would be, I don't know. Who knows? It would probably, I would think somewhere where there's not a city and not these islands, because these islands cannot support heavy machinery. So you can't like move stuff here and then attack. Like that's impossible. So, I think they would attack somewhere where it might be easier, like maybe here or something. I don't know. I'm not a river crossing expert. So so getting back to the question of, do I think this will hurt their counteroffensive? No, because I don't think there was going to be a counteroffensive. Will it hurt their long-term ability to fight? Only if they fail to train new troops. They have to train new troops, and they need to train them to a high standard, and they need to do it a lot. They need to produce a lot of infantry of high standard. They need to produce NATO quality infantry by the tens of thousands. Like they're probably going to need, realistically, I think they're going to need maybe 300,000 more quality infantry, and they need to produce it. And this is a cultural issue. This is a cultural issue in Ukraine. I don't mean Ukraine as a country. I mean Ukraine as a military. It's a cultural issue at the highest ranks, like their highest generals. Not Zelizhny. He is good, but the guys kind of beneath him, the generals beneath him, they have a Soviet mindset. Most of them, not all of them. It's also an issue in the Zelensky government, where they are for like political and ideological reasons, they're not willing to make the changes necessary to make a better military. And it's unfortunate. It's getting people killed, but that's just the reality of it. I don't necessarily think that the Western tanks are linked to an offensive. I think, personally, the Western airplanes will be linked to the offensive. I think when you start hearing of like, I don't know, F-16s or Tornadoes or whatever planes are going to be transferred, I think when you start hearing of those planes, that's when the offensive is coming. The offensive, I think, will be built around planes, not tanks, because breaking through these southern defenses is not going to be easy. breaking through any of these defenses is going to require air power. And air power is going to take a long time to implement because in the beginning of using the air power, you'll be able to drop like glide bombs, like JRAMs or whatever. So you'll be able to drop those bombs reasonably safely. But in order to really progress in an offensive, I think you're going to need to degrade the Russian air defenses. So you're going to be needing to run, wild weasel type operations, hunting down Russian radar and taking it out. I think you're going to need some sort of weapon to take out Russia's short range air defenses. I think you'll need, I think, probably drones to take out their short range air defenses. And also their medium range air defenses. I don't think you can really do it with aircraft as easily, because it's more dangerous because they use different types of radars and whatever, so they're harder to hit in your wild weasel type missions. But anyways, so I think it's going to take an air campaign to really take this out, and also an air campaign is not just airplanes; it also requires missiles, which is another kind of point that I don't really want to talk about that much because they might have an expert coming to talk about it. But Ukraine seems to have their long-range missiles. They might be ready to go soon. There's evidence that what was it, this weekend? They may have hit somewhere in Crimea with a long-range missile. I think in theory, this missile has a range of like 1,500 kilometers, if I remember right. Something like it's long range. I don't know the exact number, but it's a long range weapon. And I'm not a missile expert, although I'm trying to get a missile expert on to this show, so that could be soon. It might be on Thursday, and yeah. So I think a truly successful offensive from Ukraine will rely first on these long-range missiles, taking out things like the Russian air bases, damaging their ability to do air defenses. Then, second, I think that you need air power, first to take out the Russian air defenses in like a wild weasel type situation, and then second to take out the Russian forces themselves. And then third is the offensive push, where you send your forces in. I don't think Ukraine can realistically take back a lot of land. They might be able to take out like some land, but I don't think they can take back huge chunks without air power and long range missiles. I think the earlier the attack is, in order for Ukraine to attack right now, they would need Russia to withdraw forces. They would need to withdraw so many forces from one place that they can't defend it anymore, which I think is really unlikely. But the places where you would expect Russia to send forces would be like Bakhmut, Avdiivka, and Vuhledar. So those, I don't think Ukraine would do attacks in any of those three places. So where would Russia withdraw forces? They are sending forces to this kind of Zaporizhzhia area, the Kupyansk, Ochakiv area. They're sending people here, so I don't think that's it. So Hulapole area is possible, I guess. Vuhledar, no. Um, uh, there's this Hryanykivka area, which is not great, because you'd be fighting a city, and fighting in a city is not fun. Uh, and there's the Bakhmut area, which I doubt they could. I mean, they could attack, kind of maybe the southern part of Bakhmut, where Russia is really on the defensive in this position, and Ukraine does regularly attack here, like several times a day attacking, and they also have forces in Konstantinivka. So I guess it's possible Ukraine could push and attack, sort maybe like towards Zaitsev, or maybe towards like Kodema. Like it's possible, I guess. Um, this northern flank, it's possible, I guess, like in theory, you could attack like Soledar maybe. That's not, I doubt it, but it's possible. Um, the this kind of area around Sperna and Vasily, like I guess you could attack Berestove or Mykolaievka maybe. Mykolaievka is very heavily defended, but you could maybe attack here, I guess. I doubt it, but um, attacking Verkno-Kamyanka. I mean, this Verkno-Kamyanka, if Russia pulled guys out of here, maybe could be a juicy target. It could maybe be a juicy target, because you're really close to Sperna. Right here, like right here is the peak of this hill. So if Ukraine kind of gets up into this kind of area, near the peak, they'd be more or less on even ground with Verkno-Kamyanka. And I mean, if Ukraine, I mean, if Russia withdrew enough forces from here that I guess it's possible Ukraine could, push up the hill and take Verkno-Kamyanka and Zolotarivka, and once if Ukraine controlled this hill, then that could open up an attack on Lysychansk. That could happen. Um, it's possible that you could move up through Shipilivka and into Privilia, and then threaten Rybizhna. Like it's possible. Very unlikely, but it's not like wouldn't be impossible. Attacking Kreminna is always it's a possibility. It's a low likelihood, I think. And the same with Chervono-Popivka, low likelihood. Um, and then kind of up through the north, if Ukraine could ever figure out a way to take Vilshana, that would be really big for them. Obviously, you would have to take Liman Pershi first and cross this river and attack Vilshana from the north. That is a very low likelihood event, but would be possible. So these are kind of the areas where Ukraine could attack. I think they could attack near Kupyansk. They could attack near Kreminna. They could attack near Privila. They could attack near Verkno-Kamyanka. They could attack near Berestove. They could attack near Soledar. They could attack near Kurdyumivka. And I think that's about it. And all of these attacks are low likelihood. I'm not saying any of them will happen. I think they're unlikely. It is possible. It is possible that Ukraine can hold Bakhmut. I think it's under 50% chance. But it is possible. It's possible. I think for Ukraine to hold Bakhmut in the long run, basically Russia would have to be depleted of forces in this like Yehidna area, and then Ukraine would have to counterattack and push them back to like this highway maybe. And so I think for them to hold it long term, I think that's what would have to happen. And it's kind of happening already, where Russia is kind of, they've been pushed back a little bit, a few hundred meters. You know, it's not huge, but they've been pushed back a little bit. And if you know, if you do a few hundred meters at a time, eventually you'll get to the highway. Maybe. If Ukraine cannot do that, then Bakhmut is a lot harder to hold long term. Now, I think the way this war ends is with long range missiles, and I don't mean like ATACMS. I mean like 3,000 kilometer missiles. Like you gotta hit, if you can, if Ukraine can hit like all of this territory of Russia, that's how this war ends. Because what Ukraine has to do is they have to tell Russia that every airport that they have within striking distance of Ukraine can be struck by a missile at any moment of any day. And when Ukraine makes Russia understand that, that's when Russia will give up. Ukraine needs long range missiles. Long range, like long range. They need to be able to hit like all these areas. And Ukraine is developing this. You don't forget that Ukraine is one of the best missile developers in the world. Keep in mind that Ukraine is who made Russia's intercontinental ballistic missiles. Okay? Ukraine made their intercontinental ballistic missiles. Ukraine did, not Russia. Ukraine did. Okay? So just keep that in mind. They can develop missiles. Yeah, and I'm not saying Ukraine would need to destroy everything. They just need to show that they can do it. Ukraine, they do shoot missiles into Russia, but the missiles they're shooting, like they shot like I can't remember where. They shot somewhere in Russia yesterday. Somewhere I can't remember. But they're shooting short range missiles. They're shooting missiles that can hit like Belgorod, you know, like they're like this range. Like that's the range of their missiles. They need missiles that are like this range. Okay, you see the difference? Like you know, 5-10 times further range. That's what they need. Yeah, and yeah, shooting military targets. We're talking shooting their air bases, shooting whatever factories might be involved, shooting like actual targets. Because if they hit these air bases, and I have like these little red things on my map. These are military bases that at some point I just added some military bases. So these little red things are military bases. See, some of these are easily within range already. Like these are some more military bases. Some of them are within range already, but they need to be able to hit the ones that are like way out here. Like where's that angles? Like they need to be able to hit there. Like, you know what I mean? If you can hit there, you're having a good time. So I think that's all I have to talk about for today. It was nice. It was nice having you all here. I'm sorry that there was no Constantine. There might be a Constantine next time. He just doesn't. He was just sick today. It's a sick day for Constantine. Anyways, so we'll be back. I'll be back on Thursday. There's very likely to be a guest. I don't know if it's going to be one guest or two guests or maybe zero guests. I don't know. Somewhere between 0 and 2 guests on Thursday. Um, and thanks for coming. Thanks for coming today. And yeah, so I'll see you then. I'll see you on Thursday. Bye. Okay, I banned the troll. Can everybody stop fighting now?